As you guys can well see, I'm just having all kinds of technical difficulties today. I knew it was going to probably happen with the Streamlabs. It always does when I try to do a real live stream. It works fine when you're testing. That's odd. But like I said, I'll here. Give me a second. I'll get the information posted. I'm still trying to get this last link shared. But I have a feeling this is not going to last very long. My stream health is staying in the red. And it's kind of weird because this is the only place I'm streaming from. I'm not using Ustream, I'm just streaming right straight to YouTube. And I'm having issues with Streamlab freezing up, so page unresponsive. It's not even worth a share. I just dropped the call-in information in the window, in the chat, for those that want to call in. I do want to, by now I'm pretty sure most of you have already heard, but those that are actually just listening to their phones haven't heard, there was just a 6-point, depends on the reports. Toledo 11 is reporting it as a 6.6. Breaking news is reporting as a 6.4 earthquake that just happened in California. So definitely my thoughts are out to those people that live out there. I know last night there was a 6.8 off of out in the waters of off Alaska. So we know how the earthquakes work in that area. They follow the ring of fire. They follow those fault lines, and usually when there's one, there'll be more up and down it. So definitely want to keep an eye out that way. Hopefully it's just a lesser aftershock from the 6.8 from last night. But yeah, I'm at the point right now I can't even use a browser, so this is probably not going to work. It's prevented me really from sharing the links and stuff, so we'll give it a few to see if people can jump in. But like I said, I'm even having access switching screens on Streamlabs. It's like I said, you can have all the tools and toys that you want, all the software you want, It still revolves around how good your internet connection is, what kind of how good your rig or operating system you're using. And I can see just by watching it, it's just buffing, as you guys can see. I mean, I've got my drop frames under control, and my CPU usage is even down, so there shouldn't be no reason why I'm having these issues, but some of it's probably internet connection, which I know better. I mean, I've used this before and streamed just fine. Probably should see if you guys can even hear me. That's usually the other. Nice. Okay, that's coming through good. So everything seems to be working. Like I said, I don't know why I posted the. I'll just put it there. See if it shows up in the live chat. I might have to refresh this. But the call-in information's in the description and in my chat. I'm going to make an attempt to share this one over to the mines real quick. It was a big fail sharing it to Facebook. Nice thing about the WordPress and Patreon, I don't have to share it again. Because I made sure to, at least those spots I can put, was able to put the first one, which had all the links to the other one, and actually put the videos up for the other ones. So at least that's a start. But yeah, I mean, like I said, even on Independence Day, I mean, we still got major news popping off. With the earthquake, and that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Hopefully, it's just like I said, an aftershock from the 6.8 that happened up further north and off the coast of Alaska. This one actually did hit on the mainland. I will see once I get this link shared if I can't pull it up. I'm definitely not going to be able to go to the USG site. And while I'm actually showing you guys how I'm posting this is something else to understand. This is what I mean when I say tags or hashtags. You know, meta tags, similar. You know, this is what the search engines pick up. You know, the Mines has got pretty much, these are the dedicated ones, but there's other ones, you know. So when you type in a search for a hashtag, it'll pull it up. For the most part, I'm just keeping this one simple. I'm not sure why it just did that. Oh, I know why it did that. Apparently I have buttons keybound that I forgot from another stream I was doing. I have to remember that not to hit my number keypad up top and use my other keypad. Grab this info one more time. I posted that in my group. That's where the next stream will be from. I'll be doing it from there using the Gathering app, which I'll jump back there and show you in a second. Hey, Free Spirit Press, welcome. Happy Independence Day. I know you've had a busy day today. And honestly, Free Spirit Pressers, I don't know how well this is going to work. Oh, shit. I gotta fill in that in post, right? And usually, guys, when I'm sharing screens with the minds, I make sure my mature content is unchecked, so it's not posted. Because I just did see one that's usually marked E. It was always marked E, and I don't know why. But some people, and that's also dealing with different countries and different countries' laws. I'm pretty sure that person in particular lives in Japan, so they have certain. Hello, Free Spirit Press. Give me 1 second. I need to make sure this is this coming through on the YouTube side? All right. Oh crap, you can't hear me. My bad. You couldn't hear me. Yeah, I had it muted on this end, so I wasn't getting my voice doubled feedback through. I think, I don't know. I need to jump. Yeah, when I'm running Streamlabs, I can't really have no browsers up. So it's hard for me to see what's going on YouTube. So if you can actually jump back. Just to make sure the audio's coming in. Oh, huh.
An earthquake up. How can you explain to me?
Just a second, Bree.
How you?
Bree, just a second. I need to check to make sure this is coming through on the other end because I had my desktop audio turned off, and you see what I'm going through right now. I'm on YouTube, trying to get to YouTube, and I'm just. That's why, like I said, some people. That's I gotta usually use what works. As much as I love doing these live calls in.
How can you explain to me how she? Yeah.
Okay, it's coming through.
Yeah, it is coming through. Yep, it is. And I'll leave the computer up while I'm on break here.
Yeah, shut this out. I can see YouTube chat from my
Phone.
No, from Streamlabs.
Oh, nice. But can you explain to me? I went on the USGS website, and I have family in the Vegas region, and in the sad to say, in the Southern California region, sadly. I was never able to convince them to GTFO and move somewhere sensible and not quite so costly. But that's for another day and another conversation.
Hello, Don.
But can you, huh?
I was just saying hello to Don in chat.
Hey, Don. It was, can the class please tell me how you can have a negative 4K or a 4 km 4 kilometer earthquake? Does anybody know this?
See, this is not the first time I've heard this. This happened it was either earlier this or last month or towards the end of May, where they had that real shallow earthquake out in the water.
I can see, and I can grasp scientifically. I can grasp a surface level 0.0, maybe a -1, but a -4. That is a little. Happy Independence Day, Don.
Yes, happy Independence Day. Well, here's my thing. You're saying this was on the USG?
Yeah.
Well, they don't record nothing.
It was
they don't record nothing under
for 11 seconds.
They don't record nothing under.
This is sad.
Well, what I'm trying to get at, they don't record nothing under a 1. If you go to their website, you will see nothing that's recorded under a 1.
Right. And I also went to the world event incident map.
Uh-huh.
And I looked at the significant swarming, and because I'd spent so much time out in that area this year, and it was crazy. For it to see a bed swing and sway for 11 seconds, and it's a 45-minute flight from near Vegas, or from the epicenter to Vegas. It's roughly right over the epicenter. It's roughly a 40-minute flight. And that's moving rather quickly at that. It's still a 40-minute flight. Yeah. And so my question to the class, and I could see a surface level because of how that fault line and the amount of fault lines that are present in Southern California, that a lot of people have, and I'm not going to call out any particular channels because that's not how I roll. But the mere fact here, people, and the point that I'm making, there are a lot of fault lines in Southern California. And if the USGS is saying, and they are known to downgrade these significantly.
Well, yeah, I was just going to show that.
One of the.
In a second.
one of the people that I talked to who is in Vegas right now said that this was at least a 7 to a 7.1, maybe a little bit greater. And after looking at some of the photographs, my belief is that they may have diminished this as much as a full point, meaning that this could have actually been a 7-pointer.
Or is it an aftershock from the 6.8 from last night off the coast of Alaska? See, and you're bringing up a good point.
And that is another good question.
I want to show this. As you can see, me the people perspectives on top of it as well. I want to give a shout out to her, wish her a happy Independence Day. Okay, let me get here. Okay, the first breaking 911 reported as a 6.6. That's from the USGS. Now my local news, WTOL, which of course, this is really pissing me off on Twitter. I retweeted it and shared it, and it's not in my feed now. Every time.
Yeah, that happened twice today.
Well, did you see it? See, before I jumped over to this part of my page, I clicked like and retweet on me the people's perspectives video. When I came over here, the like button was unchecked.
Yeah, that's...
All right, I'll just go to their page. And this is the part that, we are going to address in another segment, or we might address it in this one. This is the crap I'm getting tired of. Information like this is important. See, MSN has an updated earthquake. WTO.
Yeah, Don, I have the same problem. And I live right at the top of the New Madron, right on the Wisconsin-Iowa line. I literally live right on the Mississippi River, literally. So, if it's all good, hon. It's all good. I'm at work. I'm taking my lunch break at the moment because it's been insane out here.
Oh no!
But what they don't understand is you've got that Cascadia subduction zone, and the amount of earthquakes that have been happening up in Alaska has been just insane. That it's literally, if something happens up in the Aleutian chains or up in the main body of Alaska, it could send enough of a shockwave, it could rip the Cascadia wide open. And anything, if you're not, if you're right at the base of Mount Rainier, my recommendation, Mount Rainier, I've been there many times. My recommendation, I would say, if we are somehow still around as a civilization, if you can even call this existence a civilization, at any level, within the next 30 years, you will see Mount Rainier, Mount Shasta, and Mount St. Helens all blow their top in succession.
I mean, we're already seeing more and more volcanoes as each year goes by going off. I mean, how many do we got going on right now that's erupting?
We've got 3 big ones going
And that's
right now.
not counting the, what, 4
and
small ones that are going? We've got 2 that are underwater that are going. Most people
those
don't realize
are the 2 that are underwater are constant and fluid, ever changing, ever evolving, always in a state of eruption. But Don, the only way to prepare for to be, I work in a preparedness mindset. If you check out some of my videos on my channel, you'll see what total preparedness is actually about. I specialize in that.
Actually, I want to correct you on something. There's been enough talk about the volcanoes and stuff. If six big volcanoes go up, that is an apocalyptic disaster felt.
Oh, yeah.
There is no preparing for that because it's the end of civilization as we know it. Just like if one of our 2 super volcanoes, because they found the one here on the East Coast now, that's actually a super volcano. If any of the super volcanoes go, there ain't no place. There's a great documentary it's a movie. It's not, can't even really call it a documentary, but it's based on actual facts of what would happen if Yellowstone would go up. It would be a global nightmare. It'd be affected clear over on the other side of the world. They'd feel it. They'd experience it. And I liked it because they showed you what the fallout would be from all the ash falling on it, collapsed buildings. It would be, no, you can't prepare for that. No government can prepare for that. I mean, we can prepare for a lot of things. The bottom line is, if something like that happens, there's no preparing for it. It's,
you're right. You're exactly right. Everybody says that, the best, you're exactly right. It's more of a respect,
yes,
and reverence to Rainier, if not a love for the Mount than anything. And a lot of people get those words, love and respect, confused. It's like Mount Hood. And we look at the last time Mount Hood blew its top. I don't think that there's actually been any definitive proof as to when Mount Hood blew its top either. And that was one of those that they were fearing was going to do a horizontal eruption, just like what happened in 1980 with Mount St. Helens.
Well, up until that point, nobody ever knew that they could actually do a horizontal eruption. It was theorized, but that, you had scientists, that can never happen. It never happened. Well, it happened. So, I mean, it's like, these things are unpredictable. There's no really preparing for it. And if you love the area you're living in and you know the risk, it's
make the best out of life. Make the best out of it.
Right.
Live, love, and live as our eternal doctrine of our country states. Live life in the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
And don't let fear crowd in. And that's the one thing you will find.
The best saying on that is, is there's nothing to fear but fear itself. If you're fearful of anything, it has control, power over you, and I mean, I can walk across the street, go get the mail, coming back. If I just didn't hear that car that just turned, came or ran that stop sign and made that turn, I've got just as much chance of getting hit by a car as I do living in an area next to a volcano. I mean, you can't,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
we stress about too many things,
And this is,
but being aware of these things is important.
How I look at fear, and some people think that my because of the nature of my work and whatnot, I have a cute little acronym that I use in place of fear. Fear is a fake emotion appearing real. There's a healthy respect for certain situations and or circumstances, but with an ounce of prevention, you remove fear out of the equation. So there's nothing to really be afraid of. But, you know, I guess that's why I chose to drop stakes in an area that is not, I mean, I would rather take my chances with a tornado and exorbitant amount of lightning than I would, and the flooding that seems to be affecting
Everyone.
pretty much everything east of the Rockies.
Oh no, it's affecting the Rockies
It
too.
is pretty much.
Because you remember, this is another crazy thing about our weather, since we're on natural occurrence topics. I mean, summer solstice, 21st. They got snow, which should have been summer.
Yeah.
They got more snow right now on their packs than since we've been recording history on that particular subject. So what happens when it finally starts warming up in Colorado and the Rockies? That snow melt is going to cause flooding in California, put pressure on the dams. We all know about the Oroville Dam. That's going to have issues off the melt because that's where all the fresh water and stuff and streams come from. So once it starts warming up in those areas, they're going to have the same issues we're having. Ours is just not because of the snow melt. Ours is because of all the rain. I mean, we still got flooded areas. I mean, a road just down here, and for the most part, this week's been nice, high 90s, high humidity, but we're getting rain every day. We're getting storms the last 10 minutes. I mean, yesterday, as soon as it started, you could see water just going down the road. You never see that because where I live. We're not getting a break from the rain. Even though we're getting all these hot temperatures and drying stuff out, it's too late. Farmers are done. I mean, what little crops that are out right now, there's a couple fields now by my house that's got corn. It's not even ankle high. That means that corn won't be able to be picked until winter, until December. If we don't get no major snowstorms, because we're starting to go back to that trend here in Ohio where our winters are starting to come earlier and earlier instead of later and later, which is good because I mean, when I was growing up, by October we were getting our first snowfalls. By Halloween, we had at least 2 to 3 inches on the ground.
When I went out yesterday, I had a pretty stark shock at my local store, and I checked online on 20-pound bags of rice unavailable until after the 22nd of the month. When was the last time? So what that tells me is this is now affecting many areas, and this isn't this is going to have serious, much more serious repercussions and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be caught. I too was raised in the woods and the water, Don. So, I spend a lot of time reconnecting with nature. I love nature, and I'm in the process of actually leaving the city and going back to the country that I spent so much time in and loving being back in the rural countryside, because it is so serene and so beautiful. Because I'm not liking the direction of where things are going. And I live in a town right around 7,000. If you want to link my channel,
I'm getting it right now. It just
I was going to say, because I'm on a phone.
Yeah, it's just taking me forever to go anywhere. Back, I'm just going to close that out.
I've got faster internet than you do.
Yeah, anybody does. I got a 5.1 connection, so. And technically, you need they say you need a 3 to even do what I'm trying to do right now.
I could grab it. That's not a problem.
I already got it.
All right.
Oh, you did change the name of this show.
Yeah, I did. Free Spirit Press News. For some reason, it'll come up as something else, but
No Limit.
No Limits Radio is what the channel name used to be, but it generally will, if you punch in Free Spirit Press News, it will come up as such.
But yeah, I mean, and you did bring up a good point earlier about the earthquakes. We don't never know how big they actually were, because they don't. They're always downgrading them. And Don brought up a good point as well, because they don't want the people to panic. We know how dangerous the fault lines around California are. We know how dangerous the Ring of Fire is, because I mean, we've got evidence of what the last big one in Argentina. It raised the ground up to where you can literally see, I mean, where it raised the earth and pushed the land up above sea level. I mean, it's huge. You can stand and look at how much it raised the earth. Earthquakes are so destructive, but at the same time, same way with volcanoes, those underwater volcanoes we're talking about, one day they're going to become continents. That's how a lot of the continents were formed. It was through volcanic activity. Eventually, over time, they build up, break the water surface. I mean, there's a natural cycle to
but
things,
in the
but
same
we also
way,
got manipulation of the weather too.
But in the same breath, look at what happened to places like Lemuria, and places of that nature. I mean that if you subscribe to the theory and you look at any world flat map and that was made prior to 1990 and you lay it flat, I can see some consistencies and some thought processes that where they were based that theory of at one point all the continents were together.
The Pangea theory?
Yeah. I couldn't remember the name.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can see it because just the understanding of basic science of plate tectonics. I mean, that's the other issue California and anything on the western coast, clear down to South America, has to worry about is the plate tectonics. They're always moving. Just like there's a place in the deepest part of the ocean, one of the deepest parts of the ocean, there's a place where it's sucking the ocean in. I mean, it's literally, it takes centuries for it to do, but our oceans are ever changing too, because it's all being drawn into this it's a huge line. I can't remember the oceanographer that discovered it, but yeah, they've sent cameras down there, and you can see all this.
Jacques Cousteau.
Yep. So there's natural phenomena that's happening. Our ocean isn't the same as it was 100,000 years ago. Because it's
some of this, I got reports from people that live in the Gulf.
Talk for a bit. I need to go grab something to drink.
I got reports just a few weeks ago about marine life in the Gulf showing up dead. And their family member reached out to me and asked me if I knew what the cause was and whatnot. And I said, there are many factors here. It's not just any one specific cause. There are several causes here. And we talked about it in one of our live streams that we did recently, and it was oxygen saturation in the water in the Gulf, but part of it is all the flood water that has seeped out or got washed down from the upper Mississippi River Valley with all the insecticides and the pesticides and all the runoff has all been ran downward from in the upper Ohio River Valley, Tennessee River Valley, Missouri River Valley, all of these rivers that feed into the Mississippi. Eventually, it all ends up in the Gulf. And then you have the events from Fukushima now being hitting and affecting marine life in the Gulf as well. And a lot of that, yes, Fukushima was caused by an earthquake. But to that extent, how many of these quakes are being caused by man? How many of these quakes are being caused because of man's greed?
Yep, we got. What's the name of that ship? What is the name of that ship? And I thought it was funny because the earthquake they had out in New Zealand, that ship was out there in those waters when they had that big earthquake out that way. That's designed to cause There's always been that. There's
Oh,
also been that theory of setting off heavy explosive charges on a fault line to trigger a fault. We've seen what
yeah,
fracking
I
does
know
for
what
those of
ship
us in
you're talking
Ohio.
about.
Fracking in an
Uh,
area in Ashtabula County, Cuyahoga County in Ohio, never had issues with earthquakes, and all of a sudden, after all the fracking they did, earthquakes started happening. Out in Utah, same thing.
yeah, but you also have, you're right there along that, there's a huge fault line, and I cannot remember the name of it, that
The
the
last time
northern,
we
shield.
discussed about an earthquake here in Ohio was when I was in school in third grade in the 80s. And
That's about the last time that there was any significant,
nope, not anymore. Now, we felt the one that happened up in Michigan. We just had the ones off Lake Erie this year, just last month. I mean, three weeks in a row there was an earthquake off the shores of Lake Erie in Cleveland. Never used to have that.
my question would be, and this is where sometimes modern technology can be of use, and sometimes modern technology can turn around and slap you in the face. My thought really is quite simple. That those quakes out there were very, very shallow off the bottom of the lake. So my thought really is that, number one, they really need to start thinking about what practices, we need to really look into what practices and procedures were going on, and let's not rule out that there was, because you do have Great Lakes Naval Academy not all that far away. What is the probability that there could have possibly been something, some kind of a underwater drill done?
Well, I mean, let's go down that rabbit hole. For those of us that are familiar with the Great Lakes, Lake Erie in particular, and the Great Lakes, there's always been talk of that huge military underwater, under the Lake Erie's floor, military complex that stretches from our sovereign soil here in the U.S. to Canada, where if there was ever a total nuclear war, that we would be up and operational, and half our military, whatever we have on the ocean, we have the equal amount in this allegedly this base. It's always been talked about. It's never been proven. But when you start digging stuff up, there is possibilities for collapses, cave-ins. We understand that from the miners aspects of things. It is a conspiracy theory because it's never been proven. But there's always been talk, clear since the 50s, about what's underneath Lake Erie and the Great Lakes. It's something I even got into as a kid, looking into researching, because it isn't interesting. I've heard military people that was in the service talk about it. Is it real? We don't know.
It's one of those things, I've never gave it much time or anything of that nature, because quite frankly, I got too many other things I have to go down, and too many other avenues that are always, let's chase a rabbit here, there, and everywhere. I'm forever.
But here's the thing. I can use history to give
But
that some credibility, though. We've seen what during World War II with the Nazis, all the underground facilities that they built. We're still finding new facilities that they had built that was underground that we didn't even know about. I mean, huge complexes.
Yep.
Underwater stuff that accessed from one coast area to another that was, I mean, it stretched to 2 or 3, basically, because we know how that area is broken up to different countries, stretching clear to the coast of another country. So we know that even back in that day, they had the technology, the know-how to do these things. So it does give credibility to what people have always theorized about what's under Lake Erie. And, that's why I'm so big on history. And we also know, we're celebrating our Independence Day, but we also know towards the end of World War II, there was an operation called, what was it called? It was the one where every country was on it, doing it. It was everybody trying to get to.
I don't.
It was the Great Race.
Or paperclip.
No, not paperclip. The Great Race. Everybody was trying to get to West Germany or to Germany, to the Central area before it was divided into East and West. Why? Because they wanted the scientists. Everybody wanted to get there first to get the scientist. We already know, in our history, our CIA, FBI, they were trained from some of the top Nazi captures that they took. Same way with other branches, NASA, same way. Some of our great scientists, like, were from German scientists. I can't mention the one dude's name because he's still alive. And he doesn't want to be mentioned.
Yeah, I can't.
But yeah, I've sat down and actually talked to him.
And I can't speak to that.
And
so,
I mean, it gets to that point where
there's
what most people say when we talk about controlling the weather, or like we were just talking about causing earthquakes. That stuff was talked about in Congress in the 1950 or 1943, somewhere in that area. Between 43 and 50, somewhere they talked about it. It was actually brought in front of Congress. We need to start putting effort to control the weather, weaponize the weather, and we're seeing it today. A lot of this weather we're seeing is not natural. I mean, it isn't. I mean, we've got these huge Doppler radar towers that are pointing up, and we've seen people document this, how they're directing and controlling the line of weather.
Okay, I got a perfect one for you. Yesterday we had a line of storms up here in Wisconsin. Now, have you seen a group of storm cells in recent time that you can see trailers of the eye of a storm kind of moving on with the trade winds, but the eye of the storm itself staying centered for an entire radar loop, which usually runs about 30 to 45 minutes, staying centered in one area while another big rainmaker is approaching that same area. Something stationary was holding those three eyes in place.
Yeah. Well, we
and
talked
I caught
about
this on my phone.
The last time that you was on here on Sons of Daughters, we talked about hurricanes still being hurricanes at Category 1s over the mainland of the United States, where normally they're not even tropical depressions by the time they reach this far in my area, when they come from the Gulf or from Florida. They were still categorized as Category 1s, not tropical depressions. They didn't weaken, and they were acting like storm. We've seen a couple storms that looked like hurricanes, but they developed over land.
and it's my belief that this theme is not going to cease anytime soon. I don't have any concrete proof other than when I looked at another channel's writer outlook going out for basically 18 days. And I usually don't end up getting to his videos until after they've been up for a day or two, because my schedule is just off the rail right now, and it's not looking like things are going to slow down. That's why I haven't been putting out any fresh content for a minute. I'm going to do something later today, maybe, or possibly tomorrow. I don't know. Time's going to tell. But, it's very simple.
See, I mean, the Weather Channel, they're saying 6.4. That's just right straight from my phone.
I would look not so much at I would go to the global incident map and look at the global incident and
But then,
see what
that's my
they
point. It
say.
doesn't matter where you go. You're not going to get the actual information.
Global incident tends to be a little bit more accurate as far as there's usually some parity, but what the USGS might list as a 6.4, the global incident will register it as a closer to a 7. But when I look at the swarming and the proliferation of it, I'm worried about the Salton Sea Fault unzipping.
Well, yeah. What's his name? The one dude I follow, Mr. I can't remember his channel name.
Mr. MBB 333.
Yeah, he's also just put a video out talking about a bunch of swarm quakes, real strong ones, in Yellowstone. And we know how hard it is getting accurate information out of Yellowstone. It's almost impossible.
He's got people that live right, that are his loyal.
Yeah, I know.
And it would not surprise me that because he does travel a bit, and it would not surprise me that he does not have contacts within Yellowstone as well. And that is a channel, not that I endorse anybody other than you or I out there. Yeah, I do on my channel. I do have feature channels on my channel that I put out there that are also very like-minded people, but you won't find their direct linking embedded within my header. And that says something. Mr. MBB, he takes weather phenomena and environmental phenomena very, very serious. And ever since he has started his channel, good God, I don't think he's one of the original YouTubers, but I want to say that he has definitely been around for quite a spell.
I went ahead and dropped the link to his
And
channel in the chat for those that want to check him out. He does put out some awesome content on top of the weather stuff. Just not the weather stuff. He talks about, the lights, strange lights in the sky. People send him stuff in all the time. I enjoy listening to him. Great source of information. And I do,
well,
unlike Bree, I do
just
attend when I find great channels, because I don't really talk about the stuff that he talks about. I share that with people because it's important. We are a community.
well, just for people's.
Let me finish, Bray. We're celebrating our Independence Day. We're all supposed to be brothers and sisters, and this is the habit I want people to get out of. I don't care if I don't like him. If he's putting out informational content, you guys should see it. Because I might have a difference of opinion. I mean, here, I'll show you my difference of opinion right now. And it's no mystery. But he puts out great stuff. I have a difference of opinions with some of the stuff he says, but him, B Rich, all those guys, they put out great stuff. And as, somebody that believes in what we're celebrating today, believes that we're all supposed to be brothers and sisters, not bickering and fighting with each other. Yes, we're going to disagree on stuff. They put out good information. They're on top of it. And that's what we need to start getting back in the habit of sharing the community, uniting with the community. Because that's what I'm going to get into at the very last 2 hours, not the next one, but the very last stream I do is going to be about united we stand, divided we fall. And it's so important that we break ourselves of that habit. I mean, everybody, no mystery, I've stated this out loud. I love what Casey does, Enter the Stars. I'm not a Christian, though. And my views and beliefs go completely against what he believes in. But yet I still support him. I was there for him when they went after him, gave him strikes, and was giving him a hard time. I got your back. That's what we should be doing. That's why I've gotten away from it, but I'm just getting back into things. I was out everybody knows I was gone for a year. Took a break. And we just got away from sharing our content. We've been told that we have to have a different opinion and can't get along. If we can't get along, we can't make a stand nowhere on any issues. We can't have good conversation about weather. That's why, Mr. MD333, I'm not that good at the weather stuff, but I do know he is. I know other people that are. And it's about sharing that stuff, just like Bria. She's getting more into the prepping side of things, and I've gotten away from that. And really never got into it, sharing that stuff, because I have a different view, different philosophy on that. It's okay to educate people, but there is a point when we're talking about prepping, THF, we give out too much information.
Hey,
we take
sir.
pictures. Yeah, hello.
Hi, sir. How you doing? I
All
just
right.
got a quick question for you. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say, I stand with Israel?
Yeah, I've been very vocal about that one too. I mean, especially to our politicians.
Is it like
Our
is it a
politicians
complete
taking
clown show?
Our politicians take an oath to serve this country. They're not allowed to have allegiances to any other country. When they sit there, I stand with Israel, I support Israel, I back their policies. What about the oath they took to this country? I'm an American first and foremost. Everybody here also knows this. I have dual citizenship. I'm also a Brazilian. But as long as I'm in, and this is how it's stated from each embassy, as long as I'm in this country, I am considered American. When I go to Brazil, I'm not recognized as an American. I'm recognized solely as a Brazilian. It's cool to support our allies, but when it comes to allowing our allies to dictate policy, try to change our laws, that goes against everything we're celebrating today.
Exactly. And it's not even the politicians, it's the freaking people that are brainwashed. And I see this so much out of the conservative movement of, I stand with Israel. And it's just, it's like a freaking hypnosis, man. It's a hypnosis. They're freaking brainwashed to the core. It's really frustrating to see. But yeah, as far as the politicians go, they're pretty much just puppets. You don't get in that position unless you are bow down to the lobbyists,
Yep.
take orders from APEC, and yeah, man, I'm
Hey, my
glad there's
friend
other
said
people
it
that are
best.
waking up and are.
Best. They need to be like our NASCAR drivers in racing or any form of racing. They need to put on that fire suit that's got every one of their advertisers to give them money to race, because that's what our politicians do. They take the money from big tech corporations. We've had Democrats come, oh, we're gonna just to get people's votes, but yet they're the same Democrats that were screaming in Congress when they had last year when they had Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google in front of them, telling them you need to censor this person. You need to make sure his stuff's not trending. But yet now they want to say because it's an election cycle, oh yeah, we're going to put. No, it don't work that way. Actions speak louder than words. Your actions in the past have shown us you're going to go completely the opposite what you said. Why? Because these corporations are buying the elections.
Exactly. We needed Teddy Roosevelt to come and break them up. They need to be broken up ASAP. They shouldn't even have got this big as it is. No. Facebook, Google, YouTube, all of them need to be broken up.
You know, just like here in Ohio, I hear Jim Jordan talking about all this stuff. Same way with the Texas Senator Crenshaw. They've been very vocal, but I don't see no legislation on the table. I don't see them bringing legislation forth, putting bills in forth to do anything. So they're all talk. They're not being action. I'm tired of talk. I want action.
Same thing with the wall. Just a bunch of lip music. And when it comes down to it, where's that wall at? There's no freaking wall, man. It is frustrating to see the constant pandering, the constant rah. But when it comes down to action, there's no action. It's just all lip music.
And see, some of that's because.
Well, let's be clear about this. I'm old enough to remember when a former president called it out nearly 25 years ago. Actually, longer than that. Yeah, about 25 years ago. Called out a problem 25 years ago. I'll be 25 years next month. Actually, because I think I have that speech, the hard copy of the speech, on one of my hard drives. That I think that speech actually happened in August of 1985. That he simply stated very clearly that we have a problem, and in the same breath that he was asking for one nation's leader to bring down a wall, he wanted to bring up another wall. So, that's it. Let's put this into perspective here.
Another thing, other countries have walls, have military at their ports of entry and borders. I know for a fact Brazil and Colombia do. They hate each other. Do not make the mistake. You're going to cross either one of those borders. You're going to get shot if you try.
And survivors will be shot a second time.
They don't play with their borders.
And the IDF in Israel, they don't even mind. Yeah, they got the wall, but they don't even get to the point of crossing the wall. They got snipers shooting shooting protesters. So, I mean, where's all the media coverage with that? Yeah, all the Zionists, they don't like to talk about that. They don't cover that, but they'll talk about the southern border and oh, we're the Nazis, white supremacists, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they don't want to talk about the Israel idea, frickin'.
Or China, the Great Wall of China.
You know what I mean?
Or go farther back in history, the Romans. Every territory they conquered, they built a wall with garrisons at every 150 miles. There was a garrison next to the wall.
Every 15 miles.
They didn't
Every
play.
15 miles.
Throughout history, we've had borders. Some of our borders don't have walls because they're surrounded by waters, but we have harbor police. We've had, back in our early founding, we had our military, naval, that patrolled our coastlines. Now our National Guard does that today, along with the I can't remember the other name. Coast Guard. They all take part in patrolling our borders, not our borders, but our open waters. Up here in the north, here's what the little secret that most people don't do. If you try to go across, like say go out towards Utah, Oklahoma, in that area, and try to cross into Canada that way, you're not going to get far. You're going to get snatched up by a Mountie. Their Mounties patrol their borders, and they travel those wooded areas, camp out there. The Mounties actually have probably one of the worst police jobs ever, because they're not home much, and a lot of time they're out in the woods watching the borders. Why can't we have secure borders like that? And it goes back to something I said earlier in the first stream about we already got 2 cases of Ebola that was found in either Guatemala or Mexico, and within one of these caravans that's full of people from Africa and Somalia in that area. You know, and I do agree with what is your name, by the way?
Kevin.
I do agree with what Kevin's saying about, it's cool to want to support other countries if they're our allies. But what about the homeless problem we have? What about the vets that are homeless? What about the sex trafficking that's going on in our backyards? Every backyard throughout this United States. We've got so much problems. And a lot of it, if we'd close down our border and put a wall up, put military, like any other country does, on our border, because, by the way, Posse Comitatus Act does not apply to our border, because anything within 100 miles of our border is a non-constitutional zone.
You know what? I hate the talking point on, they just want a better life. They're just trying to get a better life. But, like, what about the people in the Philippines? What about people in Africa? There's people all over the world that want a better life.
Yeah.
And,
then they need to do it the right way.
They need to do exactly what the president of Salvador said. It's not the United States' problem or fault because of the crisis on the border. It's our fault. It's our country's fault for not making it better for our people to want to stay here. And that was straight from the president of San Salvador. Best truthful answer I've ever heard from a politician, an elected official, when he just flat out said, it's my fault because people want to leave my country. And it is. It's the country's fault.
I mean, exactly. And there's people all over the world suffering, and for some reason, these people get a little special pass to just break the law and trespass, like, because they're special or something. They get the right to break the laws and trespass to make a better life. There's people all over the world that would like that opportunity. They don't get no special pass. It's you can't. Everybody's suffering, man. The world's it's not all sunshine and rainbows. You can't just like break the law to freaking get a better life. It's not how it works.
No, I mean, there's people working every day. Sometimes both parents in the family are working every day, and they're still struggling to put food on the table. What's going to happen this year in the United States because of all the crop loss we have, because of the flooding and freak weather? Prices are going to go up. How are they going to afford to get groceries when the prices of groceries skyrocket because there's no rules and regulations in place to keep it from happening?
And
it's going to force more people into
I will probably go into tomorrow.
So I can't focus on what's going on here over in Israel. In fact, I don't care what's going on over in Israel. I think they get away with way too much. But that's not my
problem
country.
with Israel is just just a hypocrite. You got like a guy like Chuck Schumer. He's a Democrat. He's supposed to be care for the little guy. He's all about social justice, but he's a hardcore Zionist. He's got dual citizenship. He supports Israel. Never calls him out for the frickin' apartheid state, racist, Jewish supremacist state. I don't care if Israel wants to be some hardcore Jewish supremacist state. That's fine, but don't take us into wars in the Middle East trying to fight on your behalf. Don't try to open Europe for refugees. All these Jewish groups trying to flood Europe with refugees, and there's a lot of different shady tactics that a lot of Zionists do. They're hypocritical. I just don't like hypocrites. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if you're gonna be up front and honest, yeah, we don't like you. We're gonna do it this way. We don't care what you think. I can respect that more than I can respect somebody that's just gonna say one thing while they're doing something else completely opposite of what they're saying. You know,
and you got Chuck Schumer. Bernie Sanders did the same way. Someone tried to call him out on the Palestinian issue, Palestinian human rights, and he said, "Oh, they're sending bombs over to Israel." And he snapped. There's a video on YouTube. He snapped at him, and
I've seen that one.
He got all mad and said, "It's like you don't care about the little guy. You're just all you want to do is hurt European Christians. That's what your goal is. You're a communist. You want to hurt European Christians." Whether it be Americans, European Americans, or Europeans in Europe, that's his goal, is to hurt them, and he wants to use it by flooding the country with South Americans, whether it be flooding Europe with Syrians and Africans, and he's just a complete hypocrite. He loves the wall in Israel and stuff, and that's the main problem I have, is the hypocritical stance. It's like, wall for me, but you can't have it. Like, we send it billions of dollars to Israel, and they get to fund their walls high and dry. But when it comes to us, man, we're all racist, blah, blah, blah.
See, you bring up a good point there. You bring up a really good point that I've kind of either just not thought about or avoided for some odd reason. All the money we send to all these countries, we need to stop that. We've got enough problems. We've got an infrastructure that needs fixed, and not buying the cheap shit like Ohio's been doing. Buying cheap, low-grade asphalt that doesn't even make it through the year just so they can ask for more money and raise taxes and use the same cheap shit. Go back to using the stuff that lasts for 5-6 years where you only have to tar the seams. But start putting that money we're sending to these other countries back into here. We could fix our homeless problem right now. All those billions we send to these other countries, stop sending it. We could fix our national debt if we'd stop sending the money we don't have to be sending to these other countries.
Exactly. And they want to ship in more people, more homelessness, more chaos. It's like, we got enough homelessness. We got enough debt. We can barely take care of our own.
It's just part of the poison the well.
Drew, I got to get back to work.
All right.
I got another 2 hours to go before I get off work, so I got to bounce. Kevin, good talking to you. You bring up some real good points. Drew, I'll try to catch you on the next one. I just got a notification that you got another stream launching here in about, I think, probably 15 minutes or so.
Damn, it's been 2 hours already?
Yeah.
Well, I did get a late start on this one because I was getting things loaded. As long as I got callers, I'm going to keep this one going anyway.
All right, but take care. I got to get back to work. My break ran longer than. I'll just leave the computer up, and so I got to get back in the car and go back to work and keep my city safe. So you take care, Kevin. Have a happy and safe 4th of July. You bring up some real good points there.
Brought up some real good points.
Yeah, you did. Take care. Be safe. Don't do anything stupid out there. And hope to catch you on another one.
Okay, thanks for taking
you guys
me
are
my call.
Drinking? Don't be driving.
And if y'all got 10 fingers and 10 toes, be smart about how you're lighting your fireworks off, that you don't end up having an accident, because alcohol and fireworks get along about as good as booze and bullets. They don't mix. So be safe, take care. We'll catch y'all on the next one. It's Free Spirit. We're out.
Catch you later.
Okay, take it easy.
But yeah, you brought up some good points, Kev. Because I mean,
I appreciate it. You did too.
That's just some people, Then the reason a lot of people don't talk about it because they're scared to get labeled as a Zionist, a Jewphobe, or whatever the label they want to try to label us with. And I don't care what label you label with me. I've been called a supremacist, which it tells me how ignorant and stupid people are, because I can't be. I'm mixed. They call me a mutt, and they would beat me down in a heartbeat because I'm an American Brazilian.
What is that exactly? You Portuguese?
Yes.
Okay.
And then here's the crazy part of this. But because of Brazil's laws, I haven't been able to go back. Once I turned 16, I wasn't allowed to go back. Because by their laws, when I turned 16, I have to join the military in their country. And the way the laws here in the United States are, we're not allowed to do that. If you do that, you lose your citizenship. So truthfully, I don't even technically have dual citizenship anymore, because I can't go back to visit my mom's, my grandmother, my aunts and uncles in Brazil, because I would be forced to pay a fine, because you also got to vote. If you don't vote, you get fined. And after 9/11, they added that little clause to our little passport thing, that if you pay a government or pay an election in a foreign country, which I agree with this, we shouldn't be doing it anyway, you'll lose your citizenship. But because they don't recognize me as an American when I'm in Brazil, I'm bound by their laws. So I'm caught in a catch-22 where I can never go back. Not even to visit if I wanted to. So, people talk about delete Facebook. Well, that's the only place I can go talk to my family in Brazil. So I can't delete Facebook. When is people going to take a stand and quit running and understand all they're doing is trying to bully us?
Agreed. You can't have like a lineage, a passage, or something like that. I know a lot of countries have that. Like there's a bloodline. They'll give you citizenship, but because of the army thing, that's the problem.
It's that and the fine thing, and that here's the difference between here's something that most people don't understand because they don't deal with this stuff. The Brazilian embassy here in the United States says, I will retain my dual citizenship no matter what. I don't have to choose. And they can't force me. But as soon as I step foot in Brazil, it's a whole different story. That's when they say, well, we don't recognize your U.S. citizenship. You don't have dual citizenship. When you're here in this country, you're a Brazilian. That's straight from the Brazilian embassy in Brazil. So the two embassies don't even abide by the same, they talk a talk, but when it comes to action, they enforce a whole different action than what the embassy here in Brazil states. So it's a messed up system, just like our immigration system is messed up. It needs fixed, but that doesn't have anything to do with what's going on the border, because that's not immigration, that's illegal aliens. That's them committing a crime. Because when you enter the first country you enter, if you're trying to come into our country, you're to go to the embassy and seek and file paperwork for asylum. If you do not do that, and you cross into our country, you committed a crime, which makes you ineligible for U.S. citizenship for 6 months. If you do it again, you can never seek citizenship. The problem is,
they have so many loopholes, though.
Yeah.
With
the loopholes is being created by the very people we keep electing into office. They're not abiding by the laws that are written. I mean, that's the thing. I do say this about laws. Laws is a two-edged sword, because it's not. Here's how law works. It's your interpretation of the law and how you sell your interpretation to the judge or jury. If you can get the jury or judge to believe your interpretation of that law, you'll win your case. So therefore, it is a two-edged sword. And you can, you want to know who the best lawyers in the world are? The ones that are locked up, who have nothing better to do and keep their nose in those law books, and they find every loophole, and they know the law better than the lawyers you pay millions of dollars to in retaining fees. But they're not allowed to practice law when they get out because they're not allowed to hold an office of trust.
Yeah, man, immigration's the 1965 Immigration Act. We pretty much threw it. Ronald Reagan, not sure who passed it. No, not Ronald Reagan, but one of them passed it, and it's just been downhill from there. Mm-hmm. Country's been going downhill from there.
And it has been. But, like most people don't understand our history. I touched on this a little earlier in the previous live stream, that our founding fathers, that's the reason why we can have socialists, communists in our government, because they're U.S. citizen. They wanted to show people that a free democracy, a free republic, was about even allowing them in. They allowed their very enemies, which they labeled as the Loyalist Party, which is the ones loyal to the crown. They let them still partake in our elections. They let them become congressmen and senators, hoping that they would see what they designed and how it worked, and that they would adapt to it and adhere to it and want that for even the countries that they were still loyal to. And maybe it was a mistake on their part. I mean, I've read the journals from my forefather. He questioned it, but he also questioned it, if we would deny that, how could we be a true free society? If we said, no, you can't, even though you're a citizen, but you're still loyal to the crown. And that was his mindset. And for those that don't know, I'm a direct descendant of John Rutledge. The only one to never, to this date, not be nominated to the Supreme Court, even though he sat on the Supreme Court because George Washington appointed him. His name's also on the Constitution because he helped write it. But he also went farther than that. He was part of the First Congressional Stamp Act, Second Congressional Stamp Act. So I come from a history where what we're celebrating today is very important to me. And the issues we talk about, just like the issues Kev's brought up about, people that are swearing their allegiance to Israel. No, you're an American citizen. That's the problem. We're focusing so much on other countries and not our own when we got major problems on our own. Our United States is not perfect. It's got major issues. We got a major homeless epidemic. We got an opioid epidemic that's out of this world. And if you talk about it, as one of our senators here in Ohio found out at the state level, he got banned on Facebook for talking about it. A state senator being banned on Facebook for talking about the problems in his state.
Holy cow. The Sackler family, Jewish family, Sackler, completely flooded the United States with opioids. Everyone's addicted, overdosing, terrible, terrible stuff.
I mean, and there's common sense fixes to a lot of these things. You want to fix healthcare, medical, pharmaceutical? It'll all be fixed in just one way, real quick. You fix it so the poorest of poor can afford it, and you set the prices based on that. That way, everybody can afford it. So they can't say, "Oh, this pill, even though it only costs a penny to make." Not even a penny to make. Some of it's half of a penny to make. It's going to cost the same for that poor person as it is going to cost for the billionaire. That's how you put an end to that, because that takes, and everybody's going to make money. That's the thing. We got away from that concept too. When I was working before I moved back to Ohio, I was making $12.50 an hour as a cook, and I was getting ready to get bumped up to $13.50 an hour. And I did see the new tax. Was getting more money, because the last time I had gotten a raise, the last time I was in North Carolina and working was like 4 years ago before I moved back here. Second time I moved back here. But when I got a 25-cent raise, I jumped the tax bracket, my check got cut in half. So yes, I do see it working. I got more back in income taxes too this year. I seen it, but yet you got people saying, no, that's not, it's broke. That's the first thing we're getting rid of when we get elected. What? It works. It's greed. It's corporate greed. They want their money. And the thing is, what happened to the principle of the more people make, the more they have to spend, the more they're going to buy. If I can afford my wants, that means I'm going to be able to buy my wants because my needs are covered and I got plenty of money to spend on wants, which means I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to go online to Amazon, buy more stuff. Now we can't do that. We're stuck to our needs and we can barely get our needs because it's gotten out of control. Why?
Yeah,
We've
the
got
price of the dollar went down.
Yep. We've got China. And there's the thing, I hate Dick Cheney. Worst, oh my God. And PBS even did a documentary on him saying he ran the show. But you know what Dick Cheney said? And he said, you can quote me till I die, and you'll quote me after I die on this. China's going to destroy our economy. They're messing with our markets, playing with the markets, playing with the gold and stuff. If we don't stop this, they're going to be the reason we have an economic collapse here in the United States. They're going to be the reason why, just not our country, but other countries are doing it to everybody. And you know what? His words to this day, because PBS actually, in the documentary, they went and talked to other people and they showed the facts. And Dick Cheney was right about that. He did see the danger there. Now, everything else he did I don't agree with, but I do agree with that. You know, just like Obama, didn't like him. I think he's the worst president we've ever had. That's my opinion. But I think history's going to end up saying the same thing. But the fact was, I didn't vote for him. I would have never voted for him because now the first time around I would have. The second time around, I'd be goddamn that man. I would have voted for him because we seen what he did. It was always pushing the race issue, pushing that. Everything he did was help destroy this country. That's the problem. We keep voting the same people in when we know better. We've seen what they're going to do. They've already done it. You know, I thought it was great. Finally, we've gotten past the race issue. We finally elected an African American as a president, which shows how far this country has came. It showed that the civil rights movement truly achieved what they meant to achieve. And just like, you know, eventually one day we'll probably say the same thing for the feminist movement. Not the ones we know today, because that's not the feminist movement. Sorry, they killed themselves during the inauguration, during the Women's March, when they let a woman get beat by a man, and they protected the man from the cops. You just killed your movement. You're no longer considered feminist. The true feminists was from the 80s, 70s, early 90s, 60s, who pushed for equality for the women. And one day, they're going to see, hopefully, some of them will see their dream come true, and we'll get a woman president. It ain't going to be this time around. But, you know, and that's the problem. You know, we've achieved so much. There's still so much more to achieve, but we got people in there trying to ruin it. Hello, Vinny.
Wait, now whose stream is this? Is this Sons and Daughters of Liberty?
Yeah, it's my stream.
Is this your stream?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's you in the thumbnail right there.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm all over. I usually have the actual emblem up, but from time to time I'll actually put my real picture up or go on cam, which I very seldom do.
Okay. So what's your thoughts on Antifa? You heard about this attack recently.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that group. Just like I've actually talked about this earlier too, because certain individuals, I'm sure if you're on Twitter and stuff, I know you probably follow certain other individuals, but when somebody made the comment that they're bringing the Proud Boys into it. Now, to me, we've seen what the Proud Boys do. They're no better than Antifa. The only difference is the Proud Boys, I haven't seen them ever go grab improvised weapons and beat people with it. They actually use their fist and stuff, but they do provoke and provoke, and we don't need that. Antifa, New York got it right. I don't know what, and that amazes me. If New York can label Antifa as a domestic terrorist group and they're not allowed in their state, why is these other states not following suit? Because that's what Antifa is. They're a domestic terrorist group. They're not about free speech. They proved it clear back to Berkeley when they were beating people with hitting people over the head with locks. Any place they went, they were bringing mass different weapons, crowbars, bats. Every place they've gone has seen destruction, property vandalized, people assaulted. We're lucky. And I mean, we're lucky. Happy Independence Day, Vinny. We're lucky that somebody hasn't seriously died because of their actions. And it's just a matter of time. That's going to happen. You know, my issue with that group should be labeled as a domestic terrorist group. I mean, you label, here's newsflash for all of you guys. If anybody gets convicted of a crime and goes to prison, you are labeled a domestic terrorist. No matter if it's just for a punk-ass drug conviction. If you're going to label a drug addict who breaks into a store, doesn't commit an armed robbery or nothing like that, just breaks into a store that's closed, nobody's occupying it, as a domestic terrorist, you better start labeling Antifa as that. Because they're committing far worse crimes. In fact, that drug addict shouldn't even be sent to prison. He should be sent to some place where he's going to get help. But we all know the truth to that. People's only going to change when they're ready to change. Sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom and being put in prison before they change. And some of them don't even change then because guess what? It's a lot easier to get dope in the prison system than it is on the streets. The other thing that nobody wants to talk about. Why? Because nobody cares. They committed a crime. We're always judging people by their past, not who they become today. Did they learn from the lesson? Are they trying to make something of themselves? If they're trying to make something of themselves, they're trying to stay away from the drugs. Shouldn't we help them? Why do we put these halfway houses that they have to come to when they get out of prison right next to the crack house and the drug slinger right across the corner? That's where they put these places. Designed to make a person fall. Put that temptation there so they can violate them and send them right back and get more money. Where people what happened to that reporter should have never happened. And there's plenty of blame to go around on that one. But it starts right at the top. It starts with the governor, the mayor, and it starts with the police that failed in their service to uphold the very oath they took to serve and protect. They knew they were given an order that was wrong, and they should have did what their oath states. We've seen sheriffs in California finally start taking a stand. And unfortunately, they got punished for it. They weren't getting paid. But you know what? They didn't stop. Now, in defense of a lot of the police in Portland, what people don't know, last year, there was a report of a very mass exodus of policemen, good police officers, leaving the state because they couldn't deal with being told to stand down. Because they knew people in the community don't believe that. Because they came to this cop saying they actually beat this guy down for beating a cop. If it's still
man, there's a lot of good and bad and everything.
Right. I don't blame the bad. I'm not going to blame the good cops for the bad apples. What I do blame them for is hiding behind their brotherhood code and protecting them. And that we got that in every position, just not the police department. It happens in the military and every branch where there's considered a brotherhood. We want to protect them instead of doing what we know is right, and that is getting rid of them so they don't taint your name, so they don't turn the people against you. And that is the issue. I mean, there's been 2 videos that's gone viral on Twitter. Like I said today, the one with that one, then the one where this cop, I mean, if I was in his shoes, after I shot him with the rubber bullets and he got back up and still coming at me with a knife, I would have changed clips and unloaded. Instead, this cop ended up getting stabbed because right after the dude got up, he hits his little mic and says, switch to taser, use taser, still use non-lethal force. to the point this guy ended up getting stabbed when the guy finally charged him, and they still hit him with the taser, and the guy didn't drop. He ended up having to put real ammo through him, but it shouldn't have got that far. But that's the point we've gotten. We pushed cops to the point where they're scared to do what they know is truthfully right. I mean, they walked, I don't know how far back. They gave this dude ample time to drop this knife and try to de-escalate it. Even when, like I said, they shot him with rubber bullets. He hit the ground, but he jumped right back up, brandishing the knife. So no, not all cops are bad. In fact, there's so many of them that are actually good. The problem is, when stuff like this happens, it puts them on the defensive. Like the cop in Florida that tried to pull somebody over and ended up getting dragged. Actions happen.
What do you mean? He got caught in the car or something?
Yeah, he was tall on the dude. Eventually, the dude was starting to get mouthy. The cop told him to put it in park, turn it off. And at this time, he still doesn't have his gun drawn. Then the guy started getting a little irate, ended up reaching for his arm. That's when the cop drew his gun, and he still didn't shoot. He says, "Shut the vehicle off, put it in park." And eventually, dude, still holding on to the cop's arm, just starts taking off. Then he stops, and dude, the cop's still saying the same thing. Didn't shoot, didn't fire, and ended up getting, dude, the guy in the SUV ended up doing it again and driving off, this time really taking off, going down the highway with oncoming traffic. And that's where they stopped the video and didn't really say what happened afterwards. I mean, I couldn't walk them out. I could not do the job they do. Oh no, I'd be in prison. Just because of issues like anything that happens to a children, child rape or domestic violence. No, I'm not wired for that. I couldn't keep my cool. I'd want to, especially if it happens in front of me. Oh no. So yeah, you got to give them utmost respect. And the crap that person that tried to come on here and do, that's, he has that right. It's freedom of speech. But he wasn't on here exercising that right. He was on here trying to play all that crap, push the lies that he's been fed, play the music that he knows is going to could get this channel taken down. And that is wrong.
That dude was just a troll trying to cause a disturbance.
That's why I don't normally do the call-ins like this. Because last year, I did the Hangouts. Just post the links. Here, come on. Because it's what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about you guys sharing your opinions and views. If he wants to talk about how cops are all racist, talk about it. I don't care. I'll let you talk. But bring some facts. Is there facts to back that up? There's some cops that are racist. I know that. I've met a few. But there's politicians, there's churches that are just as racist, that preach race and hate out of the churches. So it's everywhere.
Agreed. A real quick point on Antifa. You see people calling them fascists. Antifa, they're fascists, but really they're self-proclaimed communists, and they're using communist tactics. And people think fascism is the only one that does violence, but
no.
Communism has a long history of violence.
Yes, they do. I mean, especially those that follow more of the Marxist philosophies. Which I don't really want to say Marxist. Marxist was mild compared to Stalin when it comes to the communist sides and the real violence. But then again, nobody actually understands. We hear the word socialist being thrown around. I'm a socialist. Most people don't know this. They claim to be a socialist. You know what they're claiming, right? They're claiming Nationalist Socialist, Nazi, World War II, the National Socialist Party. Hasn't changed just because you drop a few words. It's the same rhetoric. Most people, because they will not read Mein Kampf. If you would read it, you know who Hitler praised and gave the utmost respect for? The Muslims in Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, and Iraq. He said they have it right. The way they deal with other people that are considered, because they considered anybody of a different philosophy, different. If you weren't blonde hair, blue eye, you was an inferior race. He said it right in his Mein Kampf that they have it right, and that's how I'm going to do things. See, people don't want to know their history. Or, like, let's use Israel, for example. Up until last year, I think it was last year, so either last year or the year before that, it was banned from being even taught in the colleges, being shown even in the library. They actually finally lifted the ban on Mein Kampf. And the professor just blew everybody out the water. As soon as he could freely talk about it, he pointed out these very facts that proved that many of the people in Israel that they have elected as officials are no better than what Hitler was with their mindset and the way they treat people. So, it goes to that there's information out there. And people aren't going to agree with it. People aren't going to agree with the fact that, he read Mein Kampf. He's evil. He's a Nazi. No, far from it. But I'm also going to call what those that claim to be socialist and socialism is. You're nothing but a part of the Nazi Socialist Party. And who do I blame for that little problem here in the United States? Us. During World War II, when we brung all those defectors and people that we should have been put in jail for the crimes they committed, we brought them over here because they had knowledge in science, or they could teach our military, or teach our CIA, FBI. That was the biggest mistake we made after World War II, is bringing them to our country. Because now we see it running rampant. Just like we see communism running rampant. This is no different than McCarthyism. Yeah, Vinny, you're definitely right. You couldn't pay me enough. Why? Because it'd be basically me going to prison if I put a badge on. I don't have that mentality. I don't have that patience.
What about the Federal Reserve?
Federal Reserve is abolished. It's unconstitutional, illegal. That goes clear back to the Civil War. I mean, that's what really started the Civil War. It had nothing to do with race. It had to do with our policies that we were going to inflict on the South that was going to change the economics, that was going to increase taxes. That's what it was about, not race. In fact, anybody that knows their history and read the statement that Abraham Lincoln, he didn't even want to free the slaves. He just didn't see no other way to win the war. That's the only reason he did, by his own words, that's documented in history, by his own handwriting.
Talk about control with the currency system. Have everybody fall in line, and everybody pay their taxes, and they can create inflation when they want, crash the market when they want.
Right.
Oh man, they've been sucking his stride through the Federal Reserve, and the president, who was that? I think Woodrow Wilson. He sold us out big time.
Him, Eisenhower, both.
He wanted he wanted donations. He was trying to get campaign donations, and he said, all right, you can do the Federal Reserve thing. I'll sign that in the office, sign that to a bill in the law. But in return, I want campaign donations. And ever since then, man, the value of the dollar's been dropping. Like, there's a little chart, and it shows the value of the dollar, the price of the dollar, and it just dropped significantly since the Federal Reserve took place. And
right.
Just been training it.
And what really hurt us when we switched from gold being our backing of our currency to oil. Now we gave some foreign countries that control most of the oil power over our money. All the while, the rich, back in the 80s and 90s, the rich oil tycoons got rich off it. Because they could control the inflation of the dollar. And then we've seen where that's gotten us to. Our dollar is not even worth a dollar.
Man, I remember in the back in the day, man, it was so much money. If you had American money, you can go anywhere in the world and be
a king.
Rich as hell. You were freaking balling. Now it's nothing, man. I mean, in a lot of parts of the world, the really poor, like Philippines, stuff like that, of course, but in Europe and China, stuff like that, nah, we're not so special. A lot of people say America, this and that, but man, we've been falling big time.
And we forget.
Been really falling.
And we forget. We're celebrating our Independence Day. What kicked off the revolution? Taxation without representation. And that was because of a 3% tax. Now it's figured that 3% tax in today's age is more like 50, 60%. They went to war and fought for their independence over a 3% tax, and we're allowing, just like here in Ohio, they just passed a 10-cent increase on gas. Gas is already expensive. All for, we need it for our infrastructure and the war on the opioids. Here's the thing. Ask yourselves this. Why aren't we allowed to vote on taxes? We vote for our school levies, which is a tax. Why aren't we allowed to vote on these taxes? Because you know why? If we'd vote, they'd find out the same thing that these schools found out, to where the schools were forced to become bullies themselves by saying, we're going to take the sports away from them. We're going to take the music, art programs, FFA, VOAG. We're going to take all those programs away if you don't vote for the levy. But they seen that and realized, hey, people aren't going to vote for a tax. And no, we're not. But
yeah, they want taxes.
We should have the right to vote on that, not our representatives, because they don't represent us. They're too invested in whatever corporate sector that they've got investments in. In fact, I think to be a member of Congress or any state level or any official level where you hold an office of trust, your money should be made public. All your investments, who pays you, where you receive your money for, all that should be open and public record, not just the president. And I do agree the president should be too.
Agreed. You know, I got to ask you another question. Have you heard of the intellectual dark web?
Which is, which is stupid, because they're doing it on purpose, trying to get the stream shut down and trying to get me taken off YouTube. Which, only person they're screwing up, they're just showing how much of an idiot they are, how stupid they are. And all they're doing is confirming what we're saying when they do stuff like that, instead of coming on with an argument and bringing it to us, giving their opinions and views. I'll let you talk. But don't do stuff that's going to get my channel taken down.
Yeah, exactly. Real quick, have you heard of the intellectual dark web? People like Joe Rogan, Ben Shapiro,
I'm familiar
people like
with it.
that. Oh yeah, I just watched the podcast Eric Weinstein with Joe Rogan, and it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. It's almost like he was siding with Antifa. It's like saying they're courageous, they're willing to go out there and risk their name and blah blah blah. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And I realize he's Jewish and he's a leftist. And I don't want to say, just because it's a Jewish this and that, but it's just always the same coincidence, the same people. And this intellectual dark web, they try to label them as kind of like they're the secretive dark people on the web that they're going against the grain, but really they're just establishment. They're establishment. They say the right things. It's always culture, PC, milk, toast, conservative. I mean, if you want to go dark web, it's someone like Richard Spencer. He's freaking more casted out, shunned. These intellectual dark web, they're getting front page columns about them in good light.
And I've actually talked about that.
Talking about them in a good way.
I've actually talked about that, how they a lot of these people, like, I can't remember the one that went by that Roman name, Invictus, that was supposed to be at
Augustus.
Yeah, Augustus Invictus. Anybody knows actually would have done well, any research to him, they would have never, the alt-right would have never invited him to be a part of it. But nobody did their research. They let somebody that got pretty much ran out of Congress because of his eugenics beliefs, the paperwork and stuff that he wrote on eugenics. Nobody, and that's the thing. Each community is responsible for policing themselves. You need to, because the best tactic is to infiltrate any group. If I can infiltrate the groups, I can start manipulating the groups, and I can start shattering it and dividing it into other groups. Eventually, you change what that group stood for. You change the meaning of what that group. You get enough people, and you're slick with your mouthpiece, know how to use your words, know how to manipulate, and there's plenty of people out there that do know how to do it. I know how to do it my damn self. And you can change a group. That's why the alt-right didn't go nowhere. In fact, it fractioned. It became the alt-light, and I can't remember, alt-rogue right. You know, some of the concepts they had were good. Not all of them, but I seen it what it for it was. Every group that gets created is going to have people to infiltrate it. If you don't do your research, if you don't vet the people you're letting into these groups, don't let a supremacist come into your group that you know is a supremacist if that's not what your group's about, because it's going to destroy what your group's about. You know, at first, I don't think Antifa started out as a supremacist group or a terrorist group, but they never vetted people. They started letting people come in, and you got groups like white supremacists, the real ones. They're going to send their minions in to infiltrate those groups and change the meaning of the group. I do believe that Antifa's always been more Marxist communist. That's been well documented. But they weren't violent until people started coming into these groups. That's why I disagree with what Joe Biggs did. When he just started reaching out to everybody, inviting them in. We're going to stand up against Antifa. You should, and he knows better. You should have vetted the people you let in, people that you said you're going to befriend, because they have a history. And that history is going to affect what you're trying to do. And I do understand he's trying to do something good. He's tired of seeing people get beaten by these thugs, these domestic terrorists. I am too. But at the point, he also knows better. There's ways to do it. Yes, I do agree. We need people there that's going to protect those that can't protect themselves. But unfortunately, you're starting to let people in who's going to go out there and provoke and antagonize, and something's going to happen. Somebody's going to end up getting seriously hurt, if not dead, and you just played into the hands of the very ones that masterminded this whole stupid psyop, brainwashing people, tricking them so that they can come after every single one of our rights. Now we need censorship. Now this is the justification for taking these people off these platforms. Now this is justification to come after their guns because they used a weapon. More and more talk is, Antifa's arming themselves. The pictures I've seen that people have been reporting on, that's not Antifa. Common sense should tell you that. For anybody that's followed Antifa, reported on Antifa, those people that are training those guys, that's bringing weapons, aren't Antifa. You can tell by their look. You can tell by their demeanor. They're not a bunch of young, brainwashed kids. These guys are older, much older, more my age, mid-30s to late 40s. And you can clearly see by some of them, they're in their tattoos. Just like now they're saying, oh, it's all white. No, I've seen, clear back to Berkeley, where there was black, Hispanics, Asians, and Mexicans, a part of Antifa. It's just not all white. You guys forget your recent history. And some of these people, the very ones spewing this stuff, is the same ones that reported on it, that was out there on those front lines, watching it, got these people on camera. We've got Islamic terrorists that's infiltrated these groups. When you create something and you don't vet, you open the door for everything that goes against what you're trying to do to come in. I don't agree with communism. Communism is the worst thing ever. We've seen it. But I know people that live in Russia that they say it works. They swear by it. They're not afraid. Which, okay, I don't live there, so I don't know. I just know what I'm being told by the media. I just know what my government tells me. I know what I've read in history. I also know what history has shown with communists, especially when they claim socialists. Every socialist country has fallen, became a cesspool to where almost the whole country has become poverty-stricken, and eventually it becomes a communist country. Communists come in, take over. It is done by design.
They try to get rid of religion, communists. That's what Stalin did. He killed a bunch of priests, and when you start killing priests and stuff like that, that's when you know you got some dark forces at hand. They tried to starve out the farmers. They took over farmers' land. They starved like the rural people, Ukrainians and Polish and Russians, even their own citizens. They starved them out. And Stalin, just another man, he was bad news, big time. But yeah, I seen the same thing. The Russians, they celebrated. They got the hammer and sickle. It's like I don't know. It's like when you grew up with that, and your grandparents, they fought under the communist banner, and there's really nothing. You can't be mad at them. It's just the way they grew up.
That's also the way I also look at it. What Russia does is Russia's business. It's not mine. I don't live there. Never going to live there. I'm more worried about what happens in my own country. I don't, they want to teach a course in college that's solely on communism. They have that right. But we also need a course that teaches our view and stance on it as well. If you're going to teach one, you got to have the other. And that's the problem. There is no opposing sides. And truthfully, you don't need two courses. You just need one that's taught both sides. It's not for me to judge. It's to me to take in the information from both sides and make up my own mind and decision. Unfortunately, it's not done that way. It's one side. It's this way. Anything else you hear that's not this way is wrong. We see it. We see it within our churches. If you're of this denomination, if you're Baptist, Pentecostal is wrong. Or Mennonites are wrong. And, on and on and on. Clear down to Catholicism, which is probably the most root of all problems. Because that's why many of us even are born here in the United States, was because many of our founding fathers fled the persecution of the church that was going on in Europe. There was just more to it than just us opposing the crown. We was also opposing the Catholic Church, because we were being labeled as heathens and heretics. If anybody ever researched the origins of the word heathen, heretic, pagan, it means common folk, free thinker. If you're a free thinker, you're going to question everything. And you would realize anything that's meant to control you, enslave you, tell you that you got to hate this group of people because they believe in this, that's not spiritual. That's dogma. There is a difference. I don't got nothing wrong with anybody's religion. My problem is religion's become tainted by dogma. It's no longer spiritual. My connection with God should be just that, me and God. That's something our founding fathers believed. If they didn't, we wouldn't have freedom of religion. And that means even the Muslims have the right to have their belief. As long as it is still a belief, it is done with expression, not action. Because that's when it becomes action, it's no longer expression, then it's against our laws. And I'm friends with a few Muslims that love our country, love the fact that their women don't have to wear burqas, that they don't have to be worried about what they can say. So yeah, there's many. There's just like the same way there's many Jews that believe the same thing. They come here because they don't want to be in Israel. They don't want to have to worry about the Mossad coming into their houses and murder them in the middle of the night, because they So no, religion is that's where we need to understand. We can't blame the whole group because of the bad apples. But we also know there is two different forms. There's actually more than two. I think that there's like 12 different forms of Islam. And there's only one that's really radical.
Was it the Sunni or whatever, Shia?
I can't remember. I know they got rid. But here's the thing. Here's what people don't know about that. I tried to do a video on this, and I did when I shared it because a person asked me to do it and talk about it. Facebook removed it not only from my feed, but I sent it through Messenger, and they removed it through Messenger and never sent the message to the person. But they gotten to the point where this particular group, they've committed genocide against their own people, their own faith. Anybody that opposes their faith, because there's a couple spiritual aspects or mystical aspects of Islam. They've been pretty much eradicated. The ones that are still around don't talk about it publicly, because if they do, they fear for their lives. And there's many that live here in the United States still to say the same thing. No, I can't speak about that. They find out, they'll kill me right here in the United States.
Yeah, the Christian infighting is gotta go. That's gotta stop. The Catholic and Baptist and Protestant. We all believe in Jesus Christ, man. That's the principle. That's the main thing. And now all these different. Oh, they believe in this way. This thing. Believe in Jesus Christ. That's the main thing.
Right.
Everyone wants to do it a little bit differently. Yeah.
I don't got no problem with you guys being good fishers of men. Teaching and spreading your word, because you have that right. But at the same point, understand we're supposed to all be brothers and sisters too. If we're going to be good Christians, let's be all brothers and sisters, not hate a group of people because they have a different belief or they believe in different sexual preferences, which Bible's clear about that. So that's on them. But we're not to hate them. But that's part of the problem why we have the issues we have today. It falls clear back to our churches preaching that type of rhetoric and dogma. We've gotten so far away from the concept that, I'm not going to vote for this person because he's not Christian. Let me remind you, church and state is supposed to be separate for a reason. We're supposed to honor our Constitution.
The values.
I do agree there.
I still think the values of a Christian nation is real important. You see what's happening. Less religion. America's becoming less and less religious.
Yep.
It's becoming more and more degenerate and more filthy, and Hollywood's corrupting this.
They're taking on more and more of an atheist side of things, which is dangerous because there's no such thing as a true atheist. Anybody that knows anything about that, because to be a true atheist, you can't have belief in nothing. And most atheists believe themselves to be the higher power. Therefore, you believe in something, therefore you're not a true atheist.
Yeah, atheists, I don't know. They spend a lot of time trying to fight you back, and Christians are the problem, and religion's the problem.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
It's by design, though. If we just fall back to common sense and fall back to our Constitution, we'd never be arguing about religion, because everybody has the right to a freedom of their religious beliefs, no matter what it is. We forget our history. We forget why it's there, because we dealt with the persecution of the church in Europe. That's why it's in our Constitution.
Yeah. But I do agree that
I do agree with you on the point of values and morals. Religion does bring values and morals, but I also have experienced other religions, other forms, from the pagan forms. They're just as much as part of the community, more peaceful at that, more loving, but they have their bad apples. And we only judge them by their bad apples. Because of this person here, probably best example, worst thing to ever happen to the occult. But because him, LeVay, for the church, for the Satanist side, we only see those and we blame every single one and think every single one are just like them when they're not. But we do the same thing. Christians do the same thing. Every domination, every religious group does it. Why? Why can't we just agree that you have the right to believe what you want? I don't want to know your beliefs, honestly, because that's something that should be personal between you and whatever you believe in, your God, whatever it may be. I don't care if it's a rock. I don't want to know, because that's your spirituality. That's your sacred bond with your Creator. But yeah, it's got. And
But don't you think? But don't you think that it's kind of important regarding like cohesion and identity, like having a nation that has a group identity regarding Christianity? Don't you think it's important? Or I think it's like everybody's split up and you do that, you do that. I just think it causes conflict.
I believe in what what the Bible says about that. When it comes down, prayers to be done in the closet. And it's
Is that what it says?
Yes, under the old King James Version, before they keep. And there's the other thing, guys. Every time, even the old King James Version has been translated for something else. Every time you translate something or try to modernize it as a new King James Version or the new, you know what I'm talking about. Christians understand it. They update their Bibles to modern terminology. Every time you do that, you lose the original meaning of what it said. I mean, truthfully, couldn't even tell you how close to the real meaning the old King James Version is, because how many people talk with these, thous, the old English words. And got to remember, that was translated from Greek, and from Greek it was translated from Egyptian. From Egyptian it was Aramaic, Sanskrit, which Aramaic is almost considered a dead language. So it's left up for interpretation. But in the Bible, it does say that, prayer is to be done in the closet, because it's supposed to be your connection with God, not everybody else. We are to go. Like I said earlier, when we go to church on Sundays, it's not to really hear the sermon. It's to give praise and worship to God. That's the day He chose for rest. That's the day He said, give me the day you'll set aside and give me praise and worship.
Yep.
But
now, what's your thoughts on
But I do agree that but I agree with all religions have their morals and values that could be brought to the table that would help make this world a better place if we could all just get along and quit arguing about it.
Yep. Now, what's your thoughts on the gay rights, the gay agenda, all the prides going everywhere, all the flags, rainbow flags, and stuff like that? Don't you feel like they're kind of pushing us?
They are pushing it. They've been pushing it ever since they started pushing the transgender thing. Started pushing the transgender thing. Here's what happens when you give an inch, they take a mile. Unfortunately, I'm friends with a lot of people that are old school LGBT. Well, before it was even, when the T stood for transvestites, not transgenderism. And I've supported those groups.
Yeah.
In the past. I'm straight. They know it. They know that's not what I'm judging you by. What you do in your bedroom's none of my damn business. Who you love, that's none of my damn business. I can't tell you who to love. It's like I can't tell you who to hate. And I believe, as an American living in the United States, everybody should have the same equal rights and freedoms that everybody else has. That's what our founding fathers wanted. But there comes a point when you start taking it too far. And this is where I've made my stance on all this stupid gender identity bullshit that our government's created to divide us. That's all. They use it to divide us. Is this: you can't change your DNA. Your DNA dictates if you're a male or female, and you cannot change that. So we should never even be arguing about this subject or talking about it. We should be respecting the fact that they finally achieved what they wanted. The ability to be treated as equal, be married, if that's what they wanted. And that's, go Goes back to what we were just talking about with the religion thing. We've been taught since the beginning to hate this group because it goes against their belief system. You know the old saying, when in Rome, do as Rome. You know what that was about? Why that was, how that got created? Because their soldiers took boys with them because they would be away from their women while they're on long campaigns. They practiced homosexuality during the Roman times. Most people don't know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a way to keep them from raping the women that they conquered, which it still happened. I mean, people don't know history, or they're too scared to dive into history. But there's also more than one aspect of history. Remember, the history we know is written by the conqueror, not the conquered. Then there's the unwritten history that's passed down from generation to generation, like my journals, family journals. They're passed down from generation to generation that my forefather wrote. That's not public information. That's not given to a library. Just like the Native Americans, they have their stories. They have their stories where they talk about giants that was on this continent before we got here. But that's all suppressed because they got conquered. So their history is not a part of ours. Even though we used them, they were a key role for us winning the Revolutionary War. They're the ones that taught us we have to use more guerrilla tactic fighting than standing in a line, let us shoot each other out, because we didn't have the numbers. We had to adapt. We had to change. We learned that from our Native Americans. Unfortunately, we learned it so well when it came around time, we started to use it against them. To now, what's left of the Native population is, on a percentage-wise, a true Native American is considered like 3% now. If you got 3% Native American blood, you'd be considered a Native American. Where it used to be 15, 20, the Native Americans have almost been wiped out. To where eventually there's going to be no bloodline that's to be traced to a Native, to where you could say it'd be like 0.001% Native American blood.
Yep.
Which,
that's history. Brutal stuff.
We do have our dark spots in history, but there's also more than one side of the story, and we got to be open enough to hear everybody's opinion and view, hear their history, because some of it you cannot produce the facts because it's been passed down by word of mouth. Because they had to. If they would have put it in a book, they would have been persecuted by the conquering country. They'd been labeled a heathen, heretic, or enemy of the state, or whatever colorful label we want to use to divide a person and categorize them so that we can turn the tables. And that's something we got to get away from. We got to get away from all this division. We got to stop letting these politicians use race, gender, religion, labels to pit us against each other. They do it on purpose. Just like the terms Democrat, Republican. No, you're an American. You vote for the person that sits there and has proven they're going to uphold and defend the Constitution. Their job is not to interpret the Constitution. That's the Supreme Court's job, and they failed us too. But that's because we have Congress that interprets the Constitution for themselves and try to make sure that only the justice is going to abide by their interpretation of it, when their job is not to interpret. Their job is to, yes, they can write amendments, but they're not allowed to interpret the Constitution. Their job is to defend it and uphold it as it is written, and make an amendment if something needs changed. And we've had some good amendments passed, giving people rights, the very equal rights to freedom, liberty, and stuff. Those are important. But we've got a bunch of crap amendments in there that should be removed because they're unconstitutional. They strip the fact that you cannot make any changes from the First Amendment clear down to, I think it's the 6th or 7th, cannot be infringed, cannot be changed. All this gun debate, not even a debate. Constitution says it cannot be changed. Every American citizen has a right to bear arms. In fact, every state and government has a duty to make sure every citizen of age is supplied with armor, or not armor, ammo, and weapons and rations. That's still on the books today. But yet, how many states make sure that every state citizen or U.S. citizen has their ammo and weapons? None.
Heck no, I agree. Hey, you know what, man? I gotta head out, but this has been an awesome talk. Really appreciate you taking the time. How often did you do these streams?